there,
Hello.
and welcome to the channel.
Thanks for having me.
And this, for those who are our many 10 subscribers, we're in double digits now. This is Jenny Currier. She is one of the people I worked with at the military school. She's also a former student. She's also a fellow writer, and she's a new mom.
I
So she
I
has
just
lots to
realized
talk about.
my name on Zoom is Charlie's mom. I have not updated that. So yeah,
Yes.
my son's name is Charles. Yes.
Yes. So let's talk whatever you want to talk.
Okay. Um, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I feel like for a teaching channel, my teaching it's been a few years. But I was getting flashbacks from listening to your other interviews. And well, yeah, one of the things that came up was how I used to go to your room every day before class started and sit on the what will become of me couch and just cry and be like, how do I get through the day? What do I do? How will I ever survive? And I would not have been able to do it as well without you. So thank you.
Well, can't tell you how much I appreciate you being willing to even try it. It is a daunting business teaching. Uh, and so having you there was awesome. But I really think you're kind of a natural. I think you've always been sort of oriented towards sharing and making sure everybody knows what's going on.
Yes, I was like that kid in school that like finished first, and I was like, "Can I help other people?" And be like, "All right, sure." So that was, yeah, I was tutoring like for money in middle school. So yeah, I
Oh,
guess.
those big bucks, those big tutoring bucks.
Hey, I made like $10. I don't think the wages have changed all that much, especially from what I can see.
So, what can you recall that you did that you really thought worked with your kids? Can you think of anything that really worked with your kids?
Um, I mean, yeah, probably. If I really thought about it, I watched all of the group work um series, and that brought back a lot of memories. One of the things that I really enjoyed the most that I think worked, but it was also for me like such a relief as a teacher was doing it was we were reading a play, and it was like the line search or something where you recommended like have the kids do all the work, like they find the line and then they have to like put it up there, like put what the act and the scene and all that is. And I'm like, what about an answer key? And you're like, don't have to make an answer key. And that was like very scary to me. But that was like a really fun exercise because it got them like looking through the play. It got them engaged and like pretty focused. And then I didn't have to do as much. So that was like a really great day for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I like line searches. I liked study sheets, all sorts of stuff like that, where they're filling it out. Whether
Yeah.
they're filling it out while I'm doing something or they're filling it out on their own time didn't matter to me, as long as they were sort of their hand was on it, they were doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was that was really good. And I enjoyed, I don't know, like things that come to me are kind of sadistic, like making tests. Like The Hobbit, the movie had just come out when we were reading the book, and so I had questions on the tests that I made that were like movie specific to be like, who just watched the movie and who read the book.
Right.
So yeah, those were fun things for me.
And so, what about as a student? You've been a student in a lot of different contexts. Can you recall something you did as a student that really helped you, that did things for you?
I mean, my all-time favorite class, and I'm not just saying that because you're interviewing me, was 12th grade English. I loved it. Like I thought it was great. Getting used to workshopping, which was something that you emphasized that year, was incredibly helpful. Particularly because when I did go to grad school for creative writing, it was something that I'm like, oh, this is not completely foreign. So that was helpful, looking at how to provide feedback to other writers, how to read. And then of course, being a part of the the Joy Writers as a stowaway for a little bit, but then coming back to Rhode Island and then establishing, I guess, kind of my own writers group, and implementing the the same format that you used, which has been very successful. Like all of the writers in our group have really, I think, thrived. Through that. Like they were used to like kind of like the sandwich model, but us doing the, you know, what's working and spend a lot of time there, and then questions, and then suggestions, just a little suggestions, you know, like at the end, so we don't overwhelm them. And I remember going to a different writing group once, and they just like bam right off the bat, like this is wrong, like this was, I would, you should not have done this. And I was like, oh, like I was offended just listening to the conversation. So I really appreciate the way we did it. And I also really liked the 10,000 word project.
Yeah. It's one of those where I did it because I had gotten it from a writing teacher in a college, and we were in AP English, and I'm like, well, they're getting college credit. Why not have them do a college project, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first time I assigned it, though, heads exploded. Like, um, and I only had one student that I thought did not benefit from it. Only one. In all
Wow.
the years that they did it, there was only one student where I was like, wow, you did not benefit from this. Because what she did, she just copied stuff down. She
Uh,
went through yearbooks and stuff like that, and she just copied down the names of people she went to school with. That's all she did. All it was copying
mm.
stuff like that down, just data like that. And I thought, how?
That's so much worse.
It's so much worse than actually just sitting down and saying, this is how my life sucked. You know?
Yeah.
And just, I mean, there were kids that made up a bunch of stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like, there were students that made up huge lies. Fine. Uh, Fine. I'm not, you know, no judgment, kids. This is about trying to figure out how to write. And so of course, you benefited from it, and your group was really good. You guys really did like get right in there and start writing. You weren't worried at all. By the time we got to that assignment, you were like,
Yeah,
yeah,
this is awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, that's one of my favorite, because of course now at this point I have, I don't know, 70 journals or something in a box. And that's one of the first ones I have. And it's fun for me to look back on it. Well, first of all, I'm like, oh man, Miss Mac had to read this. This is sad. But I had like illustrations. I was really into it. So yeah, I'm sure not everyone was as excited as I was from that assignment, but I don't like, as someone who journaled previously, I feel like it took a long time for me to actually like complete a journal. Like I'd start a lot and I wouldn't finish them. So to
right,
actually like see it through was very rewarding.
yeah. And you start, even in that, you start thinking about how you want to express things. How you
Mm-hmm.
say it matters to you.
Yeah.
Uh, Even if it's just for yourself, how you say it starts to matter. And the minute you start caring about how you express yourself, that's when you start to find who you are as a writer. You know,
Right.
because
And
not. We don't own the language. We just own our share of it.
Yes. And kind of knowing your audience, I think, is helpful because sometimes it's hard to, like, for me, especially like subsequently, like, what is my voice? I'm trying to write to a particular, publication, or like, is it high language or whatever? And I liked that assignment because it gave me some time to be like, okay, this is like I was talking to you, but I felt comfortable with you. So that was pretty nice. But like, what is my quirky sense of humor? Like, how do I tell stories? And one strength that a lot of people have mentioned is that it is like having a conversation with me. And I feel like that was something that came from that style of writing. So
Right. Well, and you've written a lot. Um, you were the first person I met that actually kept a blog. Is that what it's
it
called? A blog.
is, it's a blog. It's like among the first. Then it became like super cool and like everyone did it.
Right.
And now it's like all the TikToks, but whatever.
Yeah, but a blog is different than what I'm doing now. I have a blog. I'm not very good at keeping it.
I subscribe to your blog.
Yeah, because I'm not very disciplined.
I mean, me neither. I've written 2 posts this year, maybe. But I did have that one year, 27, was it 2017? Yes, it was the year that I did the global scavenger hunt. That year, my New Year's resolution was to write a blog a week. And I did that. And then I also kept the daily blog. So I had a separate blog that I paid for to try and like up the ante that I would be consistent. And yeah, I did journal or I did blog every single day, like what my joyful moment was. So it was like focused, which helped, but that was quite a project and I was very proud of that. And I have not reached that level since.
Well, part of it too, I think one of the things that we struggle with as writers is that issue of audience. Um, that great. Have you ever seen that movie, Julie and Julia? Have you ever seen that movie?
I read the book
Oh,
and
that's
I think
wonderful.
I saw the movie, but it's been a long time. Yeah.
Right. So in that story, the young woman is cooking her way through the
Julia Child.
yeah, the Julia Child French cooking cookbook.
Yes.
And so she's blogging all the time and she gets a lot of attention, right? So that she gets to the point where she's saying, well, if I didn't blog, people would notice, they would care. And the problem that I have, even with this channel in a way, is nobody's going to care.
I told you why I started my blog to begin with, right?
No.
So there was this book that I picked up in like the sale aisle of Hastings, where it was like in that big bin of just like dollar books. And it was called The World According to Mimi Smarty Pants. And it was essentially a woman who was blogging in Chicago. And this is, I mean, shortly after high school, probably. So, 20 years ago, I don't know who was really blogging that long ago, but Mimi Smarty Pants was. And someone, like an agent or something, found her blog and thought it was so great. She's hilarious. I do recommend reading her. But and that they just were like, hey, can we compile your blog into a book? And they did. And I was like, well, that's what will happen for me, is that's how I will be discovered. I won't have to go through, like a proposal and actually try and get an agent. They will just discover me because of my blog. And that hasn't happened. I think I hit like my 15-year like milestone. I'm like, all right, well,
Yeah.
probably unlikely now.
Well, that's the thing about all of it. Of course, all of this, the way the universe is being transformed informationally and the way we have contact with each other, um, is more and more voices are being added, but that means that almost every bit of attention is splintered.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Um, so they're only, the if I talk about the YouTube channels that I follow, well, most of them are either cooking, which I do, like, or politics,
Mm,
or comedians. I follow comedians, right?
yeah.
Because, you know, who wouldn't?
Now, you must know of Nate Bargatze.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I
He's my
do.
neighbor.
Yes, yes. The only time I ever objected to anything he said, because he's very clean, he's super clean,
Yes. He's great.
right? The only time I objected to anything he said, I don't read. And I thought, I'm not watching you anymore today.
Oh, did you know he wrote a book? It's the most hypocritical thing I have ever experienced. But it is funny. If you watch that whole bit, he's just like, there's so many words. Like, can I catch a break? Like, just give me a couple blank pages to get my head above the water. Um, and so it was funny because he had like an unboxing of his book on Instagram, which I
Oh,
happened to see, and all the comments were like, I hope there's blank pages in there. And like, yeah, but are there so many words? And like, anyway, so that hit a chord with a lot of audience members.
yes. Well, and of course he does that thing about his big dumb eyes. I like his big dumb eyes thing because I think he's right. He does have a look on his face like, are
I'm
you
pretty sure
kidding?
that's what the book is called.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's got those big dumb eyes.
He's
Yeah, I like him and I like Jim Gaffigan. Have you seen Jim Gaffigan?
I have seen Jim Gaffigan.
He's
Yeah.
he's very clean as well. And his book, one of his books is called Dad is Fat. It's all about how mean his kids are to him, which I just love. I love it.
I'll have to check out more of his stuff. I kind of just see it like when it's suggested to me. So
Right.
go.
So yeah, I watch Gaffigan, I watch Bargatze, I watch Brian Regan when his are up. He's
Mm-hmm.
very clean. Um,
Was
and then
he the
I
walk,
watch,
walk, walk, run,
yes,
stand?
yes, walk, walk, stand, stand, walk, walk. No matter how hard you try, it's not getting in there.
Something's changed. Yeah.
Yes, he's so good. He's so good. But I watch some pretty vulgar ones too. I watch some pretty vulgar comedians. I think John Mulaney is hilarious, but he can be very vulgar.
He can be.
Yes.
Uh, Another one I really enjoy. I do like John Mulaney, especially the one with that he talks about his like coming out of addiction.
Yes.
Was really interesting. Um, but oh, I'm blanking. Birbiglia. Mike.
Birbiglia, Mike Birbiglia.
Yes,
Oh, he's so good.
he's hilarious.
He's so good. And there's like, for him, there's some weight in there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like sometimes you're getting into Birbiglia and you're like, oh, wait a minute. This is not, this is not light at all. This is pretty heavy duty stuff. Because like one of his is about how he was T-boned. Have you
Oh,
seen
I
that?
didn't see.
Where he was in a terrible car accident. And
No.
he describes the experience and all that. He does one about, sleepwalking. He has the one about sleepwalking.
That one of my favorite shows of his was about why he didn't think he should have kids. And it was like he had, like a 7 point list of reasons why no kids. And the first one was like the sleepwalking. So he goes into the whole backstory of how he sleepwalks, how he went through a window, how he has to be like tied up and all this stuff. And then after like, it's like 15 minutes of story. And then he's like, number two. Um, and then goes on. Anyway, it's really funny because you forget, like, oh yeah, I'm listening to the reasons why kids would be bad for him. Anyway.
Right.
And then he ends with having a daughter. So
Yes, of course, of course. Well, that's what Mulaney does this great bit about his dad had four kids. You know, there were four kids in his family. And he said, to tell you what my father was like, we were doing a road trip and we went into this town and we saw a McDonald's up above, up in front. And the
Hmm.
kids started going, McDonald's, McDonald's, McDonald's. And he pulls in and they're like beside themselves. They're so excited. They're going to McDonald's. So he
Uh-huh.
goes through the drive-through and he orders one black coffee.
No, that's
And then,
awful.
yes, and Mulaney says, cold. That man is cold. So yeah, I think those kind of things just break me up. They just break me up entirely. And Mulaney is heavy too. Mulaney can be very
Yeah.
heavy at times. Yeah. Um, uh, So yeah, I spend a lot of time watching comedians, but I'm not a comedian. I'm a teacher.
Yes,
There are
I
moments that are funny in class, but not because that's the point. Although you did say that the lesson that stuck with you is by far my most perverse lesson.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, the meter. We were talking about the poetry
Yep.
and trying to figure out where the emphasis goes on words. And it's like, well, this is an easy assignment. So you wrote a few words on the board and we have to like guess, like, is it the first syllable or the second syllable? And then happiness goes on the board. And I know Sadie's like the only person I know that for sure got it right. She's like number one, and I was like number two, you know. So then the assignment was to okay, we're on three. We're gonna say the word with the emphasis on the syllable you think it is, and it was one, two, three. It was just like happiness, and I was like, oh my god, that's not right. That's so wrong. Yeah, I will
Yeah.
never forget it. And now, whenever I see, so I have Cocoa Floss, which I highly recommend. This is not paid by them, but I do promote their product anyway. And it got a box, and it just said it was broken up like HAP and then PI. Anyway, so it was broken up to like syllables, and I was like, and it just brought back that lesson very clearly.
Yeah, and I'm convinced that almost all my students, those are the ones they remember, are when I manage to work in something that's just on the edge of not okay. That's what they remember. And I remember the first time I realized that what my students were learning was not what I was teaching, they were learning the jokes. Uh, was like, it was early on. It was when that first group that I taught graduated. It was like a year after they graduated, they came back and they were talking about what they learned in my class. And I thought, oh my gosh, they didn't learn anything. They just learned like dumb jokes. They learned the dumb jokes. So then, like, I had to go into a whole project of how do I make a joke of this?
Mm.
And that, you asked me once about my comma presentation, my
Yes.
commandments, right?
Yes.
And I couldn't find it. I still haven't found it. But one of the things in the commandments at the end was don't stick a comma up your nose with a kid sticking his finger up his nose, right? So it was one of those things where it's like, if I can figure out a way to make it funny, it's more
Mhm.
likely to stick for some reason.
Yes, I actually have my commandments presentation, and it makes me laugh just as hard as it did. I don't think like just like, and then I had another one about like grammar rules, and was about fragments, and it was like the slide is if you write a fragment, that's it. I think it's hilarious. I don't know.
That's the other part of teachers. Teachers have this sense of humor. They're hilarious. They crack each other
Yes,
up, right?
yes, yes.
So I'd do a presentation and I'd start laughing. I'd look out and this is what I get.
Yeah. Oh yeah. that 100% my grammar rules was like that. And then I had like the sound effects on the PowerPoint, which was like a swing and a miss. It's like, oh, anyway, and it made me laugh. So I think that's a really important point. It's like you'll find this funny someday. Some of you, maybe. Yeah.
I used to say too, somebody's going to have a good time today. It may just be me.
But that's important. Oh, when I was thinking about this interview, something that also came to mind was that book of, was it personal essays for the college students that we did, and the absolute fight that almost ensued because of, it was Paul Thoreau's like on being a man, like that essay in the military school about like there's no book hater like a little league coach, and how, yes, what it means to be masculine, which I think is a really relevant talking point today. But it was incredible just to see the reaction from like 18 of the 20 guys in the class were like ready to kill the author and like accusing him of being gay and all this stuff. I'm like, that's kind of the point. Like there was one student who like really got it. He's like, guys, they're feeding into this whole notion of this is what it means to be a man, and like, have you opened the mind? Anyway, so
Yes, I remember that. And, my students had a very similar reaction. I think all of us that taught that essay, because it's one of the first essay that ever said, look, men are being raised in a toxic environment. That's where the phrase, toxic masculinity. So
yeah.
that it's one of the first essays by a straight man
Mm-hmm.
who said, we're being made to be horrible.
Yeah.
And the part of the problem when you present it in a military school is, hey, wait a minute. You're saying I'm engaging in toxic behavior? And ooh, oof, eek, ooh.
I don't like that.
No, they don't like that. You know, I really regret some of the decisions I made as a teacher and wonder if maybe I am not part of the problem. Because I used to tell students there were certain topics that I would say, don't do this topic because we'll never be able to talk about it in a calm way. Like
Mm.
when they'd be writing about something, I'd say there
Mm-hmm.
are certain topics you can choose to write about them, but it, there's not ever going to be a productive discussion in this room about it because
Yeah.
none of us can ever remain calm enough to discuss this in a calm way. Um, and now I wish I'd said, okay, we're going to discuss this and you're going to lose your minds. And I'm going to tell you to calm down and you're not going to like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That I look back on that and wonder, did I do them a disservice? Because I think sometimes people are not, I think they just get entrenched in a point of view and then
I
they
mean, if
never,
you've ever read any comments on any YouTube or like Instagram posts or whatever, like that's how people are very unwilling to dialogue about a lot of things. And I'm sure that starts pretty early too. So I don't know.
yeah. Well,
I was afraid there was going to be a fight. So personally, I think that was for your safety. But
I only had one fight in my class once, a physical fight.
really,
Only one. Yeah. Two best friends were arguing in the hall and they came to a point of silence and then they marched into my room and sat down because it was passing period
mm-hmm.
and they're sitting there just steaming and I'm not even noticing it because it's passing period. And suddenly fists are flying
Oh, geez.
and it just I'm back there going, stop, stop it, stop.
I mean, you
Desperate
should have used
line.
your don't sit on a desk voice.
Ah!
Just like
Oh,
scare
I
them.
forgot about that. I forgot about that.
I mean,
Yeah.
I never sat on top of the desk ever in my life after that.
Oh yeah. That was based on my actually my psychology training. It's
Yeah.
it's it's like shock therapy.
Yeah.
Because if you do it really suddenly and the moment it happens, it's associated almost like with burning yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's so shocking. People go,
Yeah. Yeah. It was. I
yeah.
think it was a great tool. You used it very effectively.
Yeah, and you just waited for somebody else to do it so you could say,
Yes.
this is gonna be good.
There are rules that I still implement. Also, like not using you
Yeah.
and writing the second person unless like the whole piece is somehow meant to be in second person. Um, and I try to do this in my writing group today, and they're like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Oh, because I'm not part of this story. They don't get it." But like, listen, it's a rule, okay? And I just think we need to apply it here.
I think it's, well, one of the problems with it, of course, one of the real problems with it is there's a certain laziness with it almost
Yeah.
always when it shows up. Sometimes it's done consciously and it's done to a really good effect, really powerful effect. But a lot of times it's just laziness.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a writer, typing it out as fast as they possibly can because there's a deadline and
Yes.
they type it out, um, and they'll say, "Well, that's how I talk," and I'm like, "Yeah, true, yes." And it's nice to have a nice, engaging voice in there. That's nice. But that's not what writing is about. Writing is different than talking.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different. And
Yeah.
so, it's one of those things that I battle with too.
I say all the time when I'm talking, but I try not to write it every third word.
I don't know if you saw the early videos. The early videos are so cringy.
No,
They're
I mean,
so cringy.
I saw a couple. I've been doing like scattered.
So one of them, I realized when I was editing it that I was umming a lot. So I wrote down at the end of the video, I wrote down in shame on the screen, it says 34 ums.
At least you could still count them.
Since then, I've been trying to not be so, I do it some, but I think I've done better. Part of what I do is I force myself to try to be short, and that helps.
That's true.
Like, say, I'm not going to just go on. I'm going to try to get it in 5 minutes or 10 minutes and just get it said and be done with it.
Yes, my storytelling mode, I have lots of ums. I listened to a podcast interview I did a few years ago, actually on writing, and it was embarrassing that I said so many times. I want to be like, my writing is not quite reflective. I have a wider vocabulary.
Well, and if you're speaking aloud, we're talking in a conversation. The structures just aren't as conscious. And
You don't notice it, unless you're making a drinking game out of it, which I hope no one ever does.
so wasted so fast.
Oh, you know, another thing that makes me think of you. I think of you very often. I hope you know, but it's at church, and whenever priests are giving sort of extemporaneous homilies, the each and every one of us, and I'm like, oh, it's so cringy because one, it's cliche, and I have you being like cliche, like get rid of it. So that's like my first thought is it's cliche. But then I start to notice how many times they do it. And there was when Rob and I were living in Texas, it became almost like it wasn't a drinking game, but it was like an eye contact game. And Rob is up front and I'm in the back, and there was like seven. I mean, this isn't the longest talk, so it was very noticeable. It's one thing I'm very conscious of. It's my each and every one of us.
Well, and the other thing, of course, is when you get into a habit like that, when you don't hear it anymore, then it's just empty. It's of no value, right? Uh,
Yeah.
and the other thing that we do when we talk aloud and that sort of thing, I'll start into a sentence and stop myself and restart the sentence, and my listener won't notice. They just let it go. They understand that I've
Yeah.
stopped and I'm restarting the sentence.
Yes.
But if you did that on the page, you'd look like a crazy person. Like, get it together, numbskull. Do the sentence. Even a bad sentence that makes sense is better than three starts and no finishes.
Yes. And using certain words that stand out. I'm trying to remember. I read something that someone wrote recently, and it was only maybe 3 or 4 pages, but she used a very specific word that is not super common, like on page 1 and 2. And I was like, you got to lose this. At least, like, you got to lose one of them. They
Right.
can't both be this thing.
Because
Yeah.
they're like this.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, those thumbs. You got to take those thumbs back because they are a big distraction. If you
Yeah.
just had the one, it'd be okay.
Then it's like, wow,
Yeah.
that means something. But if you use it too many, you're like, well, then what does this mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great note for us to end on because
Great.
we started with teaching and we ended with writing, which is how all good things should work.
Love it.